So by the time this video comes out, this article will be a bit old. However, what's very interesting here is that the Tories are trying to change the line that the public just didn't understand the Tory message. Which, to be honest, is quite a bad line for arguments to be trying trotted out on. Now, I am doing this before the weekend. Obviously, the deadline's on Sunday. This will be coming out on Tuesday. So, who knows what could have happened by then. Everything could be dramatically different. It could have been extended by another year for all we know. But, like I say, 24 hours can be a long time in politics, or in this case, even longer. We're just going to have to wait and see on that end. But don't worry, like I say, the 6 o'clock video will, I'm sure, be covering the whatever nonsense has happened. But like I say, I think this article is quite important to understand, because this really shows number 10 in a Brexit panic mode. And we've seen numerous governments really for the past 4 years entering into Brexit panic mode and how they've handled it. And here we really get to see Johnson's, government and cabinet try to deal in Brexit panic mode, and they absolutely deliver an absolutely shocking message. And we're going to get into that now, but before we do that, please do remember to hit that like and share button, and of course down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee. And thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. Now, on with the article. So this comes from The Guardian, and it cleverly trots out oven-ready nonsense as number 10 enters Brexit panic mode. You can sometimes tell how much of a state number 10 is in by its choice of minister for the morning media rounds. And sending out the junior Foreign Office Minister, James Cleverly, living proof of fallibility of normative determinism, rather proved that Downing Street was in full panic mode over the progress of its Brexit trade talks. At a time like this, only a minister too dim to sense the danger he was in would do. Cleverly may have his talents, but the only one that he clearly doesn't have was to keep hidden. Apart from himself in his own world, he's one of life's winners. He has an inability to make a bad situation even worse. It was fortunate enough for him to claim that there were plans in the coronavirus vaccine into the UK in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Just that he couldn't say what they actually were, as no one had trusted him with the details. That at least did ring half true. In a desperate situation, Cleverly is one of the least worst people you would want to keep in the loop. But the look of confusion on his face rather would suggest such details did yet exist. Worse, however, was to follow, as Cleverly went for the hat trick on Sky News, ITV and the BBC by insisting that Boris Johnson hadn't lied when he talked about an oven-ready deal, because all that he had promised was a withdrawal agreement that was oven-ready. To no great surprise, James got thoroughly rinsed by Kate Burnley, Piers Morgan, Susanna Reid and Dan Walker. There can't have been a consensus being in the whole of the UK, even Boris, who can usually manage to believe in his own fibs, who thought that oven ready only applied to the withdrawal agreement. Especially not those who had bothered to read the paragraph in the Conservative 2019 election manifesto that said the Tories were the only party with a deal signed, sealed and ready to put the country on the path to a new trade agreement with the EU based on a free trade and friendly cooperation. If the new government line that Cleverly had been sent out to defend is to suggest that the public had either been too stupid to understand its message or had been conned, it's just not a great look. Cleverly merely shrugged and repeated his nonsense over and over again. When in doubt, keep digging. Not quite so useless was the Paymaster General Penny Mordman, stepping in for Michael Gove, who was holed up in Brussels to answer an urgent question from Labour's Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Rachel Reeves, on the state of the ongoing Brexit negotiations, but only because she made no pretense of knowing anything about anything. Rather, she sounded like a presenter on a 24-hour news channel trying to fill dead air by reading out the same headline over and over again, telling nobody anything that they already didn't know. The talks are at a critical stage. She couldn't say how they were progressing. The sticking points were the level playing field, fishing and governance, and that was it. Thanks for that, Penny. Reeves sounded rather nonplussed, as if she had expected something a little more detailed from a government minister. She realised the issue of the GDP falling by a further 2% with a no-deal Brexit than it already would with a bad deal. She wondered how many of the 50,000 new customs officials had been recruited and trained, and she referred to Cleverly's inspired new take on the semantics of oven ready, and suggested that the deal must have got sent to the wrong address before sitting down with a sense of impeding futility. As well as she might, because Mormon, yet again, pleaded ignorance. Please don't ask difficult questions, she begged, because they were all well above her pay grade, and seemingly above everyone else's in government. Penny felt someone else's pain, not least her own. Normally quite composed at a dispatch box, she seemed on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Unlike Cleverly, she has the self-awareness to realise when she's out of her depth, and right now she was drowning. What followed was an entirely predictable clash between the Tory Brexiteers and the worried well on the opposition benches. Ian Duncan Smith, Bernard Jenkin and Liam Fox led the charge for the headbangers, insisting that the government had already delivered on its promises and that the talks going down to the wire were entirely the fault of the untrustworthy Johnny Followner. Morden agreed, no retreat, baby, no surrender. But you could pick up the reservation in her voice. She was screwed if she was going to be the one that had to break the news to them that there were no choices and that they were still trying to make the country, making the country broker still on accepting a deal. Most of them would have been shouting betrayal. As for the opposition, Mordaunt had nothing to offer other than to suggest that businesses would be worried about going bankrupt should log on to the government website. Failing that, she had heard that there were some vaguely useful webinars in which she herself had not bothered to participate. Perhaps she should, as she might learn something. Mordaunt had excelled in herself at not knowing anything. The unbelievable lightness of being a performance act. Suggesting that you won't break international law after all, on a treaty you agreed no less than a year ago, providing the EU agrees to your other demands on a free trade agreement, doesn't sound like the strongest negotiating tactic. A bit like promising to obey the highway code so long as your car defects are overlooked during its MOT. But it was enough to render the debate on the Lord's amendments to the Internal Market Bill, which proposed to break the Northern Ireland Protocol almost immediately. So much so that the government sent out Paul Scully, the most junior of junior ministers in the business department, to open the debate. To put this in perspective, departmental cleaners are generally considered better informed. After Scully, a man you might not even know until himself, had witted on for about 20 minutes, Ed Miliband had the opportunity to enjoy himself at his adversary's expense. Though the shadow business secretary couldn't help looking as if he knew his virtuoso display was wasted on such a low-rent opponent, like shooting fish in a barrel, but could never look a gift horse in the mouth, Miliband pointed out it wasn't just the opposition who were queasy about breaking international law. It was almost every grandee within the Tory party. Scully wished he could make himself invisible, in which, a sense, he already was. And that was number 10 in panic mode. You know, that's very telling that during an actual serious situation of where a no-deal Brexit is coming on, where are the top ministers? Where are the ministers in charge? Now, I understand to a point sending out junior ministers from time to time, but to go on the media roadshow like that and get absolutely grilled in a complete hat trick is just absolutely insane. But as we said there, to essentially suggest the line, and this is what this sums up to, and this is what we have to take forward, that James Cleverly on the news, on ITV, Sky, and I can't remember the other one now, but yeah, on those three news channels, basically suggested that the public had completely been or misunderstood the Tory messaging on what an oven-ready deal actually meant, even though in the manifesto they clearly said that they had a deal signed and ready to go. Or the public were just conned. That's not a good look for a minister to come out of. And, you know, Cleverly is one of those ministers who, as I said, he's one of life's great winners of somehow everything can just go from bad to even worse with him. So hopefully he'll never get, shall we say, a top cabinet position. But then I wouldn't put it past Boris Johnson to give him one, maybe one someday. Who knows? But besides that, yeah, we are still, like I say at the time I'm doing this, in an absolute humdinger of a situation. No one knows what's going to happen. Sunday is the deadline, and we just don't know. We just don't know. But like I say, because I am doing this in advance, things might have moved on. Who knows? It could be entirely different by this point. But I did think it was good to point out just how interesting it is when a government goes into panic mode, that the people who have the answers to these questions don't want to be there and would rather send out juniors who they themselves just don't have the information to respond to such questions. And as you saw there, I mean, it's well worth, if you go on Parliament TV, you can actually watch that display of Ed Miliband. And my word, I've always said this, Ed Miliband he's actually gotten even better as a potential leader of the Labour Party. And I think he was a good leader. I just don't think he had his stride. But bizarrely, after that, he's now found his stride and has done absolutely, sterling work as in some of the shadow chancellor positions that he's occupied. And that performance, I highly recommend you go watch it, because he absolutely annihilates that guy. And it's like, well, job done. Good job, Ed Miliband. If only could have eaten that bacon sandwich correctly. What the timeline we could have been living in. But anyway, thank you for watching, and please do remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, please do consider visiting my Patreon as well as my one-off donation link down below. And thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.